whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gotta be biblical.
Hello, welcome to Monday Respect with Stu and Elisa. Today we were going to have two guests on, but unfortunately Cathy can't join us. There's been some big storms where she is and they've lost power. So we've got an extraordinary returning guest on, Mark MESSINA. He's also known as 8-Track for Parallel 8 Media. Mark is an entrepreneur, consultant, comedian, broadcaster, occasional meme maker and t-shirt maker, host of the 40k View and Friday Night Huddle, and God certainly changed his life in this awakening. Mark, welcome, sir.
It's great to be back, you guys. And Cathy sends her best. I only found out this morning that they still don't have power. So yeah, she sends her best.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we shall certainly get on for another show anyway. Yeah, Elisa, you all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm sorry. There's always like a delivery, a truck, a landscaper. So I have like the beep, beep, beep in the background. So
or the dog.
Or the dog. He likes how we say dog from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the New York accent. I miss it sometimes being out west.
Yeah, it does have its unique little character to it. So I know you were recently at the Mary Crowley event. Right?
Yeah.
I heard that was fantastic. You had you did a comedy show and you also did a panel on a much darker subject on MK Ultra, right?
Yeah, it was great. It was great for me to be involved in something like that because obviously speaking at an event is great and it's an honor, but it was a very Christian event and like a faith-based event and focusing on child trafficking. And she asked me to do my stand-up comedy on the Friday night session to bring a little levity, which, I mean, if you think about it, just in general, like doing comedy at a child trafficking event, it's kind of feels a little like, challenging. And then when you throw into that it's a faith-based event. But honestly, it was great. Great group of people were there, all at the Ahern Hotel. I'm sure you guys have been, right?
I haven't been there.
They're coming up this week.
Yeah, but I know that's the locale for a lot of these Patriot events.
It is. It's sad. You'd think in a town like Las Vegas there's no shortage of venues that events would be here and there, but the truth is, all the big corporations that own the casinos, they won't allow conservative events on their property.
Wow.
Yeah, so people stopped trying to even book, because what would happen is somebody would book an event, it might slip through because a younger person who's the booker wants to book the revenue, and people have had events canceled on them days before they were supposed to go. You know, it happened to Clay Clark in was that 2022 when he had his Reawaken tour out here, and they eventually had to buy tents, like massive circus tents, and it's Vegas in the summer. It was August, so air conditioned. Like there were like 30 diesel giant air conditioners on this big field at this park way up north. That was the best they could do. No venue would take them, and even then the cops showed up and hassled them.
Really?
Wow.
Oh yeah. Like they shook them down. They shook them down like a real shakedown.
That's so terrible.
Did Mary Crowley have any issues at her event then?
Oh no, the Ahern, you know, Don Ahern, that billionaire Trump supporter.
Right.
Back during COVID, Trump had a big rally plan. You guys remember, obviously, how his massive rallies were such a threat to the system. Well, during COVID, he couldn't do any indoor rallies in Vegas, and so he had the airport booked. And he was going to fly up, have the plane there, do his rally, get on the plane and leave. And it was totally, according to, you know, our governor at the time, Sisolak, you know, it was totally legal. And 48 hours, I think, before the event, Sisolak declared that he can't use the airport. He said, I'm the governor, I control the airport. And he canceled the event. Well, with only 48 hours, Don Ahern took one of his warehouses in Henderson, which is, you know, just like 20 minutes sort of south of the central Las Vegas area. And he has like big property, and he had a massive warehouse that had like giant heavy machinery, like the big, tall 3-story cranes. And he had his staff take all the equipment out of the warehouse. They brought in bleachers, and since it was private property, they had the event in there.
Now, I'm going to be a conspiracy theorist, but wouldn't it be really interesting if that was sort of staged? Because who wouldn't want to have that more in the news, to go to a Trump event after canceled by the governor?
Yeah, I'm definitely a conspiracy theorist. I think it was just real. That was the way. I mean, our governor was a piece of excrement, and he was pulling stuff like that all the time. So I figured they thought they'd wait till the 11th hour, and there's no way he can recover. Well, Don stepped in, and then Don bought this hotel that's on Sahara. It was a Chinese hotel. They had built a small boutique Chinese hotel to cater to rich Chinese tourists. In the original hotel, there was no English written on any signs. Everyone who worked there was Chinese. So like if you didn't speak Chinese, you couldn't really function in that hotel. Well, I guess the people who built the concept weren't thinking of the fact that the mega hotels, which are a few blocks away, all have, you know, high-end facilities catering to the high-end Chinese clientele. So this place flopped, and then Don bought it and turned it into the Ahern, and now that's where just the best conservative events, they all go there.
Is that pretty much the only place then that would host a conservative event in Vegas?
I mean, honestly, pretty much, you know, just depends on how conservative it is. There was one time when I found out an event, you know, if it was connected to General Flynn, a lot of the casinos would ban it. So it's a weird town, because this is a conservative state. It's a conservative town. But as you see the way they steal the votes, all the senior executives are liberal. And we could talk for hours about why I think, you know, you see institutionalized liberalism. It's part of the control structure and part of the brainwashing. But when you have all of the top bosses in town being very outspoken, you know, against Trump, their staff falls into line. So a lot of the higher management will just start voting that way. And the ones who don't, they'll never speak up. So
well,
they've created the illusion of a blue Nevada, but that's just not the case.
Yeah,
it's interesting about Flynn, because General Flynn, because he was always pretty much at the Clay Clark events, wasn't he? So that's
that was why the Clay Clark. Because listen, I've been in here a long time. I know, let's just say, powerful people, and I asked him, I'm like, we can put one of these conservative events in your casino, right? And he's like, for you, of course. And then he called me back. He goes, wait, I talked to some people. Is General Flynn connected to this in any way? I said, yes. He said, I can't do it. I'll lose my job.
Wow.
Crazy.
I mean, I tend to believe, though, that even though it's real, which I'm sure it absolutely is, it just feels akin to a lot of the censoring, and whether or not that's to wake people up if it's done from behind the scenes, I don't know. I don't think we'll ever really know, but it is kind of interesting that that's still going on,
Yeah, I mean, listen, this operation, I mean, I'm assuming you guys are, full control people. But to me, full control means control of the outcome.
Yeah.
If we had full control, we wouldn't have to spend 10 years.
Yeah.
If everything was under control. We control the outcome. It's a game of chess, and we know the winning moves. They can't win. But why are we still doing election fraud, right? Right now, everyone on the internet is showing that straight line F curve, because of the way they stole it from Spencer Pratt yesterday. And you see, hey, we've been talking about this stuff forever.
Right.
This is not new. But the masses needed to get it on their timeline. And so they needed to have it, sort of rammed down their throat. And then years and years later, they're ready to receive it. So I'm hoping this is the one. I feel like if there's not some sort of intervention and justice on what just happened, then we're going to have a problem. Then you're going to see the black pillars start to spread, because there's a lot of black pillars right now. Yeah. And I think that's by design. So in my opinion, this has to be the exposure event, or those black pillars are going to cause a lot of damage.
Yeah, I actually think we're told in drops, weren't we, watch California, but are we watching it now? Because this is why Trump has drilled and drilled and drilled about election fraud for years, right? I think building up to this moment, so that these people are watching it live in real time now. Yep.
And, it's, I mean, come on, guys, a reality TV star from back in the day. What was it? The Hills. I keep saying the OC. It was the Hills. Everyone corrects me. Sorry, I wasn't, a reality show fan back in the day. But I mean, think about that. The generations that he's crossed. So he already had a huge fan base to begin with, and he spread like wildfire. I mean, who's better to shine a spotlight on what's going on than this guy right now?
Right.
It's almost too good to be true.
Well, his campaign as well, he's putting out some amazing videos, a bit AI and all this sorts of stuff, but he is the candidate of common sense. He's doing what Trump's doing. He's going out and jet washing the pavement and, leaving marks there. How would it be if your street was this clean all the time? It's just common sense. It's exactly what Trump's doing in DC with the reflecting pool and the waterfalls and all that.
Right. It's interesting because, a reality TV star to California is like the Trump of California.
Right.
Both reality TV stars,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found it interesting, just to kind of jump back. You were at this event and, you're talking about child trafficking and all this stuff. And then they ask you to do a comedy show, which I think is very apropos, because, these subjects are so dark and so you need it like a break. You know what I'm saying? You need to kind of release some of that with laughter and energy and high vibrations. And I think that was actually great that you brought that aspect of, the frequency to such a very deep and dark. But now jumping to the deep and dark, can you give us a little bit of insight, like in terms of that panel you had? Like, what was a lot of the consensus? Was it more about informing? Because I'm assuming the crowd there is pretty sophisticated. They don't necessarily need information per se, right? We know what went on. We know, how many people were, hurt and harmed by this, and what the nefarious outcome of all this was. But was there any light, like from the perspective of what has been done, how far we've come, the good stuff that is now, the tide turning? Was any of that part of that panel?
Yeah, for sure. Let me respond to that. But let me just go backwards first and say, actually, you see, I know you guys have the Punisher in your logo, so I wore my Punisher shirt today.
I love it.
It says the flood is coming. But it's not a Punisher shirt for copyright reasons. It's a dripping skull that I created. It's a dripping skull because the Punisher is not allowed to be printed by third-party shops. But and to your point about sort of bringing light and levity, I mean, listen, you have to do that. You have to. Anybody who watches my shows know that I'm going to bring some levity into every topic. I mean, last night I did a show with retired Border Patrol Chief Chris Clem. We've been collaborating now for almost 2 months, and we're basically collaborating now going forward every 2 weeks. And we went to the Mandalay Bay and we walked the floors of the scene of the Vegas shooting. I took him up to the top floors where there's bars where you can go on the balcony and get a very similar view to the so-called shooter's view. And Chris is a 30-year retired veteran, federal agent, firearms instructor, all the things you are. He's done raids, arrests, been at all kinds of shooting scenes. I said, let's go walk the grounds, and I'll be the conspiracy. We say that I've been going down rabbit holes for 30 years. He's been tracking the rabbits for 30 years. So we go at that, and it's a very dark, place to consider. According to the official narrative, the largest mass shooting in American history. Of course, by the end of it, Chris had a lot of questions. But even in a show like that, we're doing what we can to have a laugh and have some fun, because we can't be all doom and gloom, because, and this is where it ties back into your original question about MK Ultra. MK Ultra is trauma-based mind control. Okay? When people live in fear, they are very susceptible to programming, very easy to control. And everything around us is designed for fear. The news is fear. And frankly, when we're doing our conspiracy theories, if we're not having fun, we're just contributing to the problem. We're just making people more afraid, right? So the biggest theme, I think, right? And to answer your other question, not everyone in the audience even knew what MK Ultra was, right? Mary has she has her ministry in a faith-based audience, so people were there for different reasons.
Okay.
So after the panel,
clarifying that, yeah.
After the panel, a number of people came up to me and said, "Thank you for doing that. This is the first I'm ever hearing of MK Ultra." And they had more questions. Now, Cathy's speech is so powerful. If you guys haven't seen it, and I'm talking to the audience, I'm sure you guys have, you got to go, on her website or on her X and find her speaking, because her story is just so powerful. But the spin that I put on it, if you can survive the most, this is the trauma. We won't put words into. If you want to hear the words of what she went through, go watch some of her speeches. They're not all that dark, but some of them, she spells it all out. And we're talking about the most darkness a human can endure, and starting from infancy. Some of these MK Ultra programs start when you're in the womb. Yeah. People don't know that. They do electroshock on the mother's belly to traumatize the brain of the infant while it's still forming.
Excuse me, they also inject things in there, like Laura Worley, who tells her story, talks about how they do these, and I don't know the specifics, but they do inject certain things as well. So it's extremely invasive and trauma-based.
When the brain is living in fear, when there is trauma, the brain rewires and it fragments, it compartmentalizes, right? That's what dissociative identity disorder is, or multiple personalities, split personalities, we used to call it back in the day. That's just dissociative DID, they call it. And when the brain's in trauma, different memories get compartmentalized, and then they activate under triggers. And you can literally have multiple people sharing the same brain.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason I think Cathy's story is so powerful, and it's meeting her changed my life. My focus changed on my shows and my content. That's always sort of the backbone of everything, because if you can go through what she went through, the most extreme version of mind control, of fracturing a mind, at birth, and then come out and do what she's doing now, then that has to tell every single person on earth, no matter what you're going through, you can get through it. Because the key theme of the panel, and whenever I talk about MK Ultra, it's not to think about the extreme survivors like Cathy and all the other victims of trafficking, like Hope Beryl Green and all these amazing people I've had on my show. It's the average person who is watching the news, who's watching TV, who has a job, who has a mortgage. Every aspect of our matrix we live in was designed to put us in a state of lack and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of us, whether or not we know it, is MK Ultra. Every single one of us, even us, even those of us who study this
100%.
and watch it, we have been MK Ultra. We have anxieties, we have fears, we have voices in our head telling us you're not good enough, or you're going to fail, don't even try. Whatever it is, we all have it, every single one of us. And those are all mind control. Now, not all of it came from the Matrix directly, but the Matrix encourages. Sometimes your parents made you a little anxious as a child. Don't touch the oven, it's hot. Well, depending on how they told you to do that and what age you were, that can imprint, right? People watch Disney movies. Google what percentage of Disney movies has the mother die in the opening scene, or the father or mother die at all. And you'll see basically every Disney movie is to traumatize a child with the death of the parent. The parents, you see videos of a parent watching a Disney movie with their little kid, and then the parent dies on screen, and the mom or dad is filming their child crying and thinking how adorable. But they don't understand, you're an adult. Experiencing emotion through a movie is what we do it for. We want to go on a journey, but we know it's not real. The kid doesn't.
Yeah.
And you're filming the trauma. And this is how they groom kids for predators. Think about it. If a child whose entire survival till their teens depends on their parents, and then by the time they're 3, 4, 5 years old, the idea has been firmly rooted in their brain from Disney that your parent can die and you will have no one to take care of you. What does that do to you when somebody comes along to be your uncle, to be your friend? This will be our little secret. You're going to want a secondary provider figure, protector. It makes them so susceptible to this grooming. And people don't realize it. Every aspect of our lives has been trauma-based mind control to some degree. And so Cathy's work, people think it's just if you were sexually abused, if you were trafficked, if you were groomed. We were all groomed. And the sooner people realize that, and her book, PTSD, A Time to Heal, on her site, trans-formation.com, I mean, everyone needs to read it. It is the simplest book. Her and her late husband, Mark Phillips, excuse me, it's still early. I haven't had breakfast yet, so throat's a little dry. You know, they put all this technique in where simply using handwriting can free your brain. I think every person on earth should do this exercise, and you will be amazed at how your brain changes.
Well, I know, just like, from being a life coach and my family, a lot of them are therapists, journaling is one of, we call it journaling, is it's so freeing, and it's so healing, because you're getting, I can't explain the science behind it, but I just know in like traumatic times in my life, I have journals and journals, and it just frees it. I love what she says about that. I really do. I've seen her in some of the short clips where that's what she talks about.
Yeah, there's actually hard science behind it. And I do encourage everyone to journal, but I also encourage everyone, her book, it's not a long book. I encourage you to read it too, because there's structure, and there's a structure to how you can journal that will make it more productive. But essentially what happens is when you've got a fragmented mind, right? When you've got units that are compartmentalized, that are connected to really bad memories, right? So you want to be able to function, so you compartmentalize those, but all you're doing is creating all these sort of altered states in your head.
Yeah.
But your brain hardwires, and those memories are not connected. Even though your brain is all this network, it's got billions of neurons and synapses connecting to each other. You're basically like your computer was hacked, and certain channels have been hijacked. When you write with your hand, not typing, they've shown the studies under MRI and everything. When you write with your hand, you reintegrate. So what happens is all of those networks now fire together. They won't fire in compartmentalized ways. They're going to fire together. So if you're an adult, if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever you are, and the trauma that is controlling your life happened when you were 5 or 10 or 15, whenever you remember that trauma, you become that 10-year-old again.
Yeah.
And you experience it through the eyes of a 10-year-old. And The problem is when it's compartmentalized, that's the feelings, the smells, the music, the behavior. There's something called age regression. I've seen it happen firsthand. When someone is triggered, they will start acting the age before the trauma happened, which is crazy. But when you're, let's say you're 45 years old, you've got a job and a house and a car, and you're stable, and you have a gun, and you know you're safe, you're secure, you live your life. When that memory comes up and you become this vulnerable 10-year-old again, it's irrational, but it's the way your brain is wired. So when you write by hand, now all those memories fire together, and you can reframe the trauma from when you were 10 under the eyes of a 45-year-old who has a 45 in their purse. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you can now take control over those memories that control you.
Yeah. And funny you say about the Disney movies. Like, I would not let my kids watch Bambi or Dumbo as kids, because it is so. I actually had a woman that worked for me. This is like 30 years ago. And her husband was a tough Lower East Side New Yorker. And we were talking one day, and he's like, oh my God. He's like, I can't tell you what, somehow we got in the subject. He's like, when I watched Dumbo, he's like, that traumatized me as a kid. And there's like this rough, because you're right. It's so awful. And listen, we're talking about how kids or people can be set up for like a grooming scenario. Forget about that for a moment. Put that to the side. What about just bad relationships? You have that basis. You're going to be attracted to people, so you're not alone. So, we don't have to like get into it, but people are, because they're being led by something that isn't conscious. So they're going to be attracted to these very detrimental, toxic relationships that take you a while. Then it's like, if it doesn't start to begin with, then you can be more free to understand the healthy needs and the healthy you.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, can I just add to that as well? What you're saying about Disney and parents showing their film, all these Disney movies and just thinking it's harmless and stuff. A child's brain develops by about the age of 6 or 7, I think. They have taken in so much information that it actually governs sort of like the rest of their life. And I believe,
well, it's because their brain is in an alpha state. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So.
Right. And it's also the neuroplasticity. All the connections haven't formed yet, right? Yeah. By the time you're in your teens, they've formed, and new memories have to go on the spaghetti mesh that you built. But before then, you're building it. So if you have a trauma, it's hardwired.
Yeah. Sorry, I think that's where the phrase "get them while they're young" came from. It's shocking, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking of The Lion King. Like, I had a hard time at whatever the hell age I was, 30 something, when I saw that movie. Like, not only did you have this horrendous thing of watching his father, his uncle had set up to die, but then the guilt, because he felt right. They make that kid also the kid. They make the little lion also have the guilt. So it goes so deep.
I mean, it's so deep. Here's the good news, and it's funny, by the way, that you mentioned toxic relationships as part of this, because this is what it's all been about. The good news is that this 10-year Great Awakening that we've been on, this operation, this protracted plan, which we all know is real, you see how quick humanity is recovering. Now, obviously, a lot of people haven't yet, but a lot have. So you see it. What people don't realize is that's how resilient the human condition is that this conditioning that has happened since the dawn of man is being undone, and the human spirit is allowed to come out. You talked about The Lion King. Go look at every single TV sitcom going back to the beginning. Look at The Honeymooners. Look at Lucille Ball. Look at Married with Children. Look at every show. Modern Family. I'm jumping generations on Perfect. Look at every show in between, and you will see the same archetypical strong woman, weak, bumbling husband.
Idiots.
They inverted it. It's satanic. It's an inversion, right? Women are supposed to be feminine, men are supposed to be masculine. There's strength in both, but there's different strength. They've inverted it. They've given the women in all the shows the masculine strengths, and they've made the men useless, goofy, bumbling. And we thought it was comedy, and there was a laugh track, which also programs your brain This is why comedy is dangerous, right? Because when you're laughing, your brain is susceptible to believing something. So when the punchline was so good that you laughed, you ignore the logical fallacies in that, which is why all these liberal comedians got away with convincing people that, you know, you could change sex and that guns are bad and all these things, because the punchline's so good, you're laughing. They use that psychology on us in every show, going back to our grandparents. It's been there all along, and they've they've destroyed the nuclear family, inverted feminine and masculine, basically got rid of masculine in men, right? Giving women a false sense of masculine, which obviously we know is not sustainable. How many women are 40 and 50 now? And, oh, I got the career and I don't need a man. And they're like, yeah, but I kind of want one. And it's too late. It's too late. So the human spirit, man, God is good. We're making the comeback, but people need to understand just how much we're coming back from. Because if you really look at all the beliefs you hold, you'll realize that music and TV and sports, everything has programmed those beliefs into you.
Yeah, exactly. And not forgetting all the subliminal messaging in all these cartoons and shows as well. You know?
Oh, yeah. I don't like to listen to certain music now because I know the CIA mastered frequencies. Yeah. And some of these new beats, when I was, you know, rap started when I was a kid, and I loved rap, you know, back in the day, I loved Public Enemy, and like I was with the original. And now the music scene, you hear some of these beats, and they're using those voice boxes. They're not talented. So, you know, this is a completely constructed psyop, and the beats and the sounds are so dark and demonic. And there's always like people dying at these concerts. They're like death cult rituals. So I don't even want to listen to certain things anymore. I have a hard time. I want to watch something on Netflix, and then I have to say to myself, is it worth watching for the story and the enjoyment of relaxing versus the potential stuff they might be sneaking into my head? Right. It sucks thinking that way, but you really have to protect your mind.
Oh, exactly that. I haven't watched TV for a long time, but if you do watch something on Netflix, when I was watching TV, even like 4, 5, 6 years ago, it say you're just watching a football game before they were all taking the knee and stuff. You could sort of enjoy it, you know what I mean? It was just you were watching a game of football, but when it went into the adverts, you just felt yourself being sucked back into this normie world and this sort of like lower frequency. Is it still the same on Netflix and things like that?
Honestly, you know, I'm a control guy, you know, maybe not exactly in the same way as everyone else. I see all kinds of white hat shows and themes being presented on Netflix now. But here's the thing. I don't think every one of them was white hat from the start. I think a lot of them were infiltrated, which means they got through a system that thought, hey, here's another one of our brainwashing tools, because it does have darkness in it. It does have, you know, sexual identity, body dysmorphia, all those things that they convince kids. I can't imagine when I was a kid growing up and having people say, I was born in the wrong body. I want to take hormones so I can have breasts. I want to have my, you know, member cut off. As a kid, I couldn't imagine it. So you think about what they've done in the show. So, you know, it's a mixed bag. Like, I do like to relax sometimes. And I went probably like 6, 7, 8 years maybe without watching much of anything. So now I'm like, I work so much. I'm like, I want to watch a new series, and I'll start watching it. I'm like, this is fun. Then I'm like, oh, there it is. There's all that programming. So, you know, it's stuff out there.
Yeah, it's very tough. Although I do see, like you said, you can see it weaved in, you know, to where you have to imagine now that the white hats have kind of infiltrated. You could see it. I know Charlie Freak talks a lot about that, about how a lot of these shows are kind of deprogramming and reprogramming, you know, and there are certain movies that do the same thing. But either way, there's some kind of programming, you know, so right. How susceptible do you want to be?
I watched, I don't know when this was, last year, I guess, maybe, or I've lost track of time. Maybe it was earlier this year. I don't know. I watched that new season of Stranger Things that came out, and I hadn't really watched all of it. When it first came out, I watched it because it was the buzz, and then I realized, oh, this is just dark, destroying the nuclear family. It's about MK Ultra, because that's what it is. And then I said to myself, let me go watch this new season, just study it. And I made a tweet about it, which, you know, got some traction, but it got a lot of hate too, because people didn't want to accept it, because when whatever that kid's name comes out as gay, everyone immediately was just like, there it is. There's the programming. And I said, yeah, but look at all of the things. This final season is clearly about the Great Awakening. The one person in the room who is able to see through and say, no, that's an evil person. You guys are following the wrong one. Everyone teamed up against that person. And I was like, that's us. This show made that person the hero. They made us the hero. And then I thought, well, listen, we're not dealing with people like us. We're dealing with the masses who aren't even aware of the brainwashing. At least we have this step of being aware of it. That doesn't mean we're not susceptible, but at least we're aware. The masses don't even know. So they're going to watch the show, and their sons and daughters may be sexually confused. So having characters that they can associate with. The show wasn't based on his gayness. You know, the scene where it came out got spoofed and, you know, all over. They're like, oh, in the 80s, if your friend, you know, came out and said, like, oh, I like boys, you'd all like punch them or whatever. Like, it wasn't a thing that even happened. But that's not the point. You got to reach people where they're at. So some of these things that still have agenda in them, but then there's a subliminal message. I mean, what do we say? Playbook known. We're using that playbook.
Yeah. Yeah. And
you
listen,
can reverse brainwash using the same techniques.
There's a difference between pushing an agenda and it just being what it is, right? I grew up, I had gay friends. It wasn't a big deal. You know, it just was. We had fun together. It wasn't about, and there's a big difference between that and saying you're in the wrong body. Do you know what I'm saying? Those are two very different things. And I know plenty of gay people that are in 30 and 40-year relationships, healthy, you know, beautiful and I know people that are heterosexual that can't be married for more than a year, you know what I'm saying, and don't have the capacity to be. So it's not about the judgment. You're right. It's just about where are people and what's the agenda that's being pushed or not being pushed. And I love the meme or the thing that says, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pirate. Well, it's a good thing I didn't chop off my leg and poke out my eye, right? I mean, kids are still confused and uncertain and experimenting and figuring out. So that agenda is quite evil to start, putting that on them. And the parents should be, as far as I'm concerned, strung up. But I do think people are different. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, and you have to reach people at their level to understand the bigger picture.
Well said. You know, it's interesting you said that. Because growing up, like, I think we're around the same age, but in high school and even college, most of my friends who are now openly gay were not open. Definitely not in high school. Nobody was out in high school. And then, you know, maybe after college, you'd run into someone and now they're out. But they were always gay, but they were out. And then I had this discussion with somebody, because then when the trans thing started happening, and my friend, he had multiple children, and he learned about it from his kids who were brainwashed by the teachers. And my friend was being brainwashed by his children as a proxy to his teeth. It was wild. This is a vastly educated friend of mine, like one of the best schools in the world, engineering. And he was explaining to me how it's just natural. And remember how our friends who are gay now didn't come out then? I said, okay, so then what percentage of people, you know, are gay? And then, okay, so how many of our friends came out? Oh, it matches. So why isn't it match with the trans thing? How come none of our friends came out as trans later? It was not natural. The gay numbers made sense because those people were always gay. Right. These trans things, they were brainwashed. They took the wrong meds. They took the wrong hormones, and their brain flipped at some point. They weren't like gay when they were in high school. They weren't like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, trans when they were in high school. So
one is how you're born, you know, and there's that whole question of nurture, nature, and all of that. But the point is every single gay person I've ever known in my life was very happy with who they were. They didn't want to change their body. They didn't want to change. They just had an orientation of attraction that was same sex. And that wasn't that, at least when we were younger, like when I say younger, college, 20s, 30s, like you said, when people became more comfortable about coming out, that wasn't the topic of conversation. We were talking about, where are you hanging out? Where are we going for dinner? Right. You know, what movies did you see? Where have you been traveling? Like, that was not the topic.
Absolutely. I remember there was a bar when I was in college in Philly. We all used to go to around the corner, and we went there for years and years and had no idea what this little rainbow flag in the corner meant. Like, we didn't even know, because it was just a bar, but it was, you know, gay owned. So they put this little rainbow in the corner so that people would know. We didn't even know. It was like years later, we're like, are we going to a gay bar? Because it wasn't like a thing. It wasn't like in your face.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a pride parade. It was just the owners wanted to let other gay people know, like, hey, that was it. It literally was
You're not
not
going to be ostracized
it wasn't
or
pushed,
anything.
it
if you
wasn't
come here.
promoted. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. And listen, I think that a lot of kids are very confused. But when I see parents, I had an experience with a kid that now allegedly, I don't know, supposedly this kid was somewhat on the spectrum. What the hell does that even mean? But okay, she was mainstream.
We're all on the spectrum, but
Exactly. She went to school, all this. The kid's a teenager, a girl. And her mother starts telling everyone that we have to call, I'm not going to say the name, but it was a guy's name. And she starts giving this kid hormones. When I say kid, I mean kid, like 14. And now you have this, what I would call a freak, because here's a girl with breasts and busty. I don't just mean like, you know, she like a girl with a beard.
yeah.
Crazy,
And this
isn't
is
it?
okay.
Yeah.
This is what you do to protect your child, instead of saying, look, like I told my kids when they were younger, whether it was a tattoo, whether it was multiple piercings, I'm like, as long as you live in my house until you are on your own paying for your own life, you will go by you will not do anything permanent. You want to dye your hair, you want to, you know what I mean? Like, fine. Because you're not, they're not developed enough to make those decisions. Now, hopefully by the time they're on their own, they have a job. First of all, they're out of my, you know, control, but then maybe their frontal cortex is a little more developed to go, I'm glad I didn't do that, because now I wouldn't really want to live with that decision. But these parents who it's criminal. There's no other word in my mind except.
If I had had kids over the last, you know, decade or two, I think I would have just moved to the woods.
Yeah.
Got a cabin on a stream with some running water, no internet, no electricity, no access to the world.
It's not easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't know all this transgender was coming, but, you know, it was like 10, 15, 20 years ago. I was thinking about this, you know, do I really want to bring kids up with what's coming? But then I was thinking about New World Order, female coffins and all this sort of stuff, you know, and forced vaccinations. You know, I'd have been evil then if anyone had come at my child. But
well, we talked about the negative, but I will say a positive, you know, because my girls are 19, 22, and these kids are very different than us. And I mean that in a positive way. They're coming in at a higher vibration. They're kinder. They're more open. They're, in my opinion, they're less volatile. So kids that have come in the last 20 years I think, are part of what's raising the vibration, because they're coming in at a different, now they're being hit with all kinds of shit that maybe we weren't hit with. But listen, you know, we're evolving. So I look at these kids, like the language too. Like,
did you see the comment that just went by? I think, I don't know if that's Joe or Scott.
no, it's Joe, I think. Yeah.
That's the greatest comment I've seen. That's Joe did that.
That is hysterical.
Sounds like that sounds like a name of a coffee shop in Seattle.
Oh my God.
Only it's the same person.
That is hysterical. I love it. But in any case, like my kids, like we went to the airport a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like flipping out because they confiscate my hairspray and this and that. And my 19-year-old says, "Mom, I know you just got triggered, and that's terrible. But you have to move on." Like, I would never say that to my pet. I didn't even know the word triggered at that age. I mean, I would have been like, "Mom's having a cow." But I think there's a certain wisdom. And I think all these kids, like, as we go forward, they're just coming in at a higher level. They have to. It's what's going to bring us into a new dimension.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I sort of heard some figures over like this last year that potentially now about 25% of American students identify. Elisa's laughing at something. She's going to make me laugh in a minute. I can't see what she's laughing at.
No, I'm just looking at the beards and boobs.
Oh, right. You're still on that one, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 25% of American students now identify as something else, you know, not fully trans or cat or something like this. They've done a real job on these children, haven't they? And the other thing is as well, talking about Netflix and stuff like that, the White Hats can't just come in and use their own tools to red pill people that have been brainwashed by something else. They've got to take off those institutions and use those to de-brainwash the people. So they're going to have to use Netflix and things like that. They're going to have to use celebrities, potentially flipping them, and then start coming out, oh, I'm conservative and I love Trump and what you're doing here. And, you know, they're going to have to use the mainstream media at some point as well. I think that's going to be the main thing when CNN and stuff flip and have to start telling the truth, so people know that they've been lying to them for like the last.
They're starting already, because once in a while you hear something, you're like, whoa, did that come from CNN?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. It's a systematic, you know, sort of a thing. But you know, I think if you've ever watched Sebastian Maniscalco, right, who I find hysterical, he says something really funny, and I guess this was probably in the teens or maybe like 2010. I don't know the year of this particular comedy routine, but he says the internet. He starts talking about the internet. He's like, if you wanted to dress up as a baby and put a diaper on, no one knew. You did it in your house and you were like hidden. Now you go on the internet and they got groups for this shit. And so the internet, while, you know, in some ways was great, it allowed a forum for these nut jobs.
Well, I guess you could look at it both ways, because nothing can get corrected if it's hidden. Light is the best disinfectant. So in a way, bringing all this up, listen, everything, all of these things, I'm sorry, none of that's natural. It's not. It's all from childhood trauma, right? The age regression stuff that I talked about. There's a reason a grown person wants to act like a baby, because that was the last time they remember feeling safe, which means that they went through a lot of trauma, which means that most of the time, I shouldn't say most, a lot of the time, that person then becomes the offender. And that's just a cycle. I'm sorry, but victims become offenders all the time.
You're right.
And when you're an adult and you're an offender, I'm sorry, you lost my sympathy. You're going to jail, or you're going to the gallows. You know, if you touch a kid, I'm sorry that it happened to you, but there has to be a cutoff where you've become the offender and you're going to have to pay the price.
Listen, there's plenty of people who are traumatized and they don't do that. They get help. They go to therapy. They read books. They paint it out, you know, crying and all the writing. And so I 100% agree with you, you know.
It's and back to when you mentioned toxic relationships. It's funny because if you go to my Instagram, which is just @MarkMessina, I've been doing content on toxic relationships recently, and everyone's like, you know, I don't do as much, you know, hardcore conspiracy over there because you get banned, but everybody who knows me knows what I do. And they're like, are you giving relationship advice now? Like, you've had the worst relationships. I'm like, I know. I've had decades of dating and being part of a toxic relationship. So I learned a lot of lessons. And so now that I'm understanding them in a different way, I want to share those lessons because I'm applying them to my life, and my life's gotten better. And it all comes back to childhood trauma, or those voices in your head that are telling you, a lot of people are afraid of love. We covered on Friday Night's Huddle, we covered what they call a dismissive avoidant. That's a very specific type. I've dated a lot of narcissists. That's a real thing. I know these words get thrown around too much. And frankly, even though I'm doing content on them now, I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm making the content to get stuff off my chest that I've learned over like 30 years of horrible dating. But I hate hearing about it because it's so overused. People they're identifying as a dismissive avoidant now. Do you understand how they're like a fraction better than a narcissist, but they're both still going to destroy your life? And people are like, well, I'm just an avoidant, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. It's like someone's like, well, I'm just a murderer, so I might kill you, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. No, you're a psychopath. Like, no. And so all of that comes from trauma-based control. Words that are going through your head, they're sabotaging a relationship, making you pull away if you're the avoidant, making you try too hard and suffocate someone if you're the anxious. There's so many different types of toxic relationships, and I've been part of all of them. And when I studied my part, I got tired of analyzing them and what was wrong with them. That became textbook. You could see, oh, she's going to do this now. Yep, she did. And for men too, you know, he's going to do this now, and they do it. And you're like, oh my God, it's textbook. And I'm like, okay, wait. The real answer to this is me. What am I contributing? Why am I tolerating this? Why am I seeking this? Why am I attracting this? What are my fears that are making me do this? When you do that, you realize how many irrational fears you have, how many voices in your head. So that's why this MK Ultra topic, it's so much bigger than just the survivors. Every single person, you know, needs to apply this to their life.
Yeah, that's such an important point. And, you know, I mean, listen, we use this word now, trauma. It is a little overused because the bottom line is our neural pathways have been set. Whatever the message was, and you have, and I love what I love about Dr. Darrell Wolfe. If you haven't really listened to him, he basically says everything has to do with feeling self-love. If you feel self-love, you're going to raise your vibration. You're not going to be affected by, you know, all this other shit, disease and, you know, being controlled and all of that. And I have to tell you a personal experiment I did last week because, you know, I had challenging childhood, as did my parents and probably their parents. And I was, you know, I get anxious sometimes, and I tried to do like all these techniques to pull me into the present and, you know, all this stuff that does work, but, you know, it's become cliche. And then I started like talking to myself, and I started saying, like, because a lot of us have a problem telling ourselves or looking in a mirror and saying, I love you. You know, we're very like used to saying, oh, look at how you look, or, oh my God, I didn't notice that gray hair, or look at the wrinkle, or what am I doing? I look so horrible. And we say these terrible things to ourselves, right? So I was like really uncomfortable with this, but I was like, I'm going to do it. And I started saying like, I love you. And it was really hard, but I will tell you, versus some of these other techniques, when I said that, I literally felt the muscle tension release.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So I still struggle with it. You have no idea how many times, like, you know, you wash your hands in the bathroom, you look in the mirror and you're like, and then I'm like, stop it. Don't go there, because it's, you know, otherwise you're conceited, or, you know, you think you're all that, like all these messages that they've given us. It's nice to say, it's good to self-deprecate. You know, that's basically what we've all been taught. And then we teach our children.
I actually have a hack for this. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
I vocalized it on Friday's huddle, last Friday's huddle, which was called Mixed Signals, the love show with Mark and Kayla. And I'm going to be doing one, maybe one of my, I don't know. I've got a bunch of other relationship experts I've connected with, and the audience got something out of it. So I'm going to do it. But you're absolutely right. Self-love is everything. And Jesus taught us that the kingdom is within. And so the best way to separate us from the divine is to put words in our mind, in our thoughts, in our head that make us self-deprecate, that make us question each other. So the first level of the hack is obviously to have multiple people in your brain. So when your brain starts talking, become the observer. Watch those thoughts. They're not your thoughts. Where did they come from? And when you can get outside of yourself and get outside of the emotion and say, I just got really scared for a minute there. Wonder why that was. Where did that come from? Or, hey, I feel like I love this person. Hold on. Why do I feel that? Where did that come from? Oh, wait. Is that butterflies because I'm anxious? Because they're reminding me of a toxic relationship I was modeled to growing up. Like whatever. When you observe them. But here's where it gets. This is the hack that I think. I clipped it. I gotta put the clip up later. I believe in soul contracts. I believe we all came here to experience the human condition because our souls are in a different form. And when you realize what you signed up for, you came here to experience every emotion that a human experiences, because maybe there's no emotions in souls. Maybe it's very different in that other world. So if we came here to experience every emotion, the people who are avoiding pain are possibly avoiding the biggest treat your soul came here for, because so much growth, so much divine inspiration comes from pain, which is unfortunately why the dark side uses it on the MK Ultra. And we see so many great, talent has been severely abused. And you could argue that untapped it, but we don't have to go get MK Ultra. You had that toxic relationship and then you monkey branched right to someone else because you didn't want to sit with the pain.
That's right.
And now you're in bed with someone else. And now you're in bed with someone else. And 2 years later, you haven't processed any of that pain. Okay? but your soul came here to experience the pain. Your growth and your transformation comes from sitting with the pain. I literally am denying my soul why it came back to earth when it was in wherever that is. So you got to sit with your pain. You have to experience it again. And if you have that trauma from childhood, use the Cathy O'Brien method, PTSD, A Time to Heal book, and write it out. So when you're sitting with the pain, don't just sit there and cry. Maybe get the journal and follow the steps, because that's the key to unlocking it. That's the key to returning you to source, to the kingdom within you, is by going through that pain the proper way. Avoiding it. I joked with Kayla on Friday. I go, what am I going to do? Am I going to have to die and do another soul contract to come back and hope that whoever I am this time decides to sit with the pain? How many soul contracts am I going to need before I sit with the pain?
That's what I say lately. I mean, I make it like a joke. I'm like, I'm not coming back to do this shit again. I got to get it right this time.
But getting it right means doing this.
That's right. You know,
making mistakes, failing, having a broken heart, losing everything, sitting and just, oh my gosh, this is the worst feeling ever. Isn't that great?
Yeah. I'll tell you a story. I had a therapist when I was first starting to really process a lot of my trauma and pain. And I said, I don't understand. I'm like 40. I'm like, why isn't this resolved? And he said something very profound. He said, if this was easy stuff, you would have done it at 18. It's not easy stuff, but it's necessary. And I was like, And the other thing is, when we talk about the self-deprecation, you want to see a really good example of self-deprecation. If you ever watched the movie Mean Girls, which is very funny, funny, but there's a scene where all these girls, well, first of all, they're so mean to each other. So right there is a whole thing, but they're looking in the mirror and they're like, oh my God, my pores are so big. I hate my hairline. And it's like 5 minutes. And the girl who's new to all this they look at her and they're like waiting for her to say something mean about herself. And she's like, I have bad breath in the morning. Like she comes from a different world. So she doesn't know how to do this.
Well, having dealt with a lot of people with that and a lot of that, I'm not saying everyone like that, but most avoidants have that. And really that's a defense mechanism, because you look at them and they love themselves and they only think of themselves and they'll never consider you and they can do no wrong. And that's true behavior. So, don't be an empath and say, well, I'm going to love them through that. No, that's the behavior you're going to get. But the cause of it was a traumatic childhood where their emotions and their feelings were never honored. And if they expressed them, they were punished for it. So they learned to be their own validation source and to get it from people away from their family, right? So I'm the best. And look, I'm going to live a life. I'm going to post selfies and thirst traps to get strangers to validate me, to prove that I am great, because they needed to feel that. And they never just had a parent say, oh, you're sad. Tell me why. Let's talk about it.
You may be right, but I'm going to put a little different spin on this, and maybe you'll disagree. I totally agree with that. But then I think there's people who are raised to have no repercussions, no sense of what their actions might incur, that are completely indulged in every way to think that they are totally perfect and that they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, and it's acceptable. And I see parents with kids like all the time. Like, your kid really shouldn't have smacked that. Oh, he was upset. Where they should be course corrected in some way. So I do believe there are some narcissists that have not been given the love and they have the trauma. And then there are others who are just so indulged and so they're ruined in some way because of the being spoiled. And that to me is not, maybe it's neglect if you look at it from a parental standpoint, but they're fucked up because somebody never gave them rules to follow, to consider other people and other people's feelings.
Well, they've managed to skate by this far without consequences, but consequences come for everyone.
Yeah.
And when they come for you, if you manage to hide from them for 35, 45 years, whatever, you know how hard those consequences are going to hit when they do?
Maybe they won't. Maybe they have to come back like we're talking about. Because I know a couple of people that need a good beating. because they are just destructors.
Just a couple.
They are destructors. They just go through life destroying. And I haven't seen repercussions in a way that would make them, or maybe they're just not taking the sign.
Yeah, but
we all know those people. They need a beating. They need a good smack, and they need to get a good beating to realize you can't just hurt other people, and you're not the only person that's alive. There's other people.
But they're the people that sort of break finally. You know, if you've had your heart broken again and again and again, and you learn from it, obviously you're going to become stronger through that. If you bowl about all life, not giving a shit about anyone, and everything's going well and all that, and then your world falls apart when you're 40, 50 years of age, it's going to hit you like a steam train.
It's horrible. And I feel horrible for the women, because I look at the women I've dated, right? And I'm 53 years old. Okay. I'm a man though. You know, if a woman's 53 and she goes, hey, I wanted to have kids, I wanted to do this, I wanted true love, like, it's a little harder. And that's just, I'm sorry, but you know, we're not equal. Biology's different. You know, I can make babies till I'm 80 if I wanted to. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to, but I'm just saying I can't. Right. And so it's harder. But I want to say one thing about what you were saying, Elisa. You got to use the NPC model. Right. And we talk about NPCs in our world, but if you take it to the next level, if you take it to the spiritual realm, and you think of NPCs as almost like having no soul, right? Because you said these people are going to go through their whole life and they're going to cause chaos and destruction and pain around them. The NPC was put in this earth plane, in this matrix, to set the scene for us, for our souls, to get the pain that we came here for. We wanted to suffer. If every single person on earth could find the kingdom within, could do their best to ascend, or at least try, those things you described, they wouldn't exist. So in order for us to get the human experience and the full range of emotions, you need NPCs all over setting the scenes with violence, with chaos, with broken hearts, all of those things. So when I encounter people like that now, I used to be like, you know, I'd fall in love hard and see the good and fall in love with the potential, and I'd see the soul and see the heart. I want to fix. Now I'm like, oh, no, NPC, here to teach me a lesson. Take your lesson. Get the hell to the next scene that, you know, your soul wants to do. Because the ultimate scene, the ultimate end for everyone on earth is love. And that's why the darkness, that's why the devil blocks love, blocks relationships, blocks nuclear families, blocks friendships. Because that's the goal, is true love, which starts with love of self, which is tapping into the kingdom within. And then you can love someone else. And boom, now I think you've had the human experience, but we're all blocked. The NPCs, the causing chaos, the wrecking hammer to everything.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
It really is. That's a very good point you make. And if we can view it in that way, you can become detached from it and kind of study it, and then be able to make those changes in yourself, right? So that you're not victim. You don't allow yourself to be a victim. I still think some of them need a good beating, but that's, you know, might just be.
Well, that'll be their karma anyway, won't it? Yeah, you don't have to go around beating them all up.
No, I'm not saying me. I'm saying though it would be nice to find out that they got, you know, they got something, just a little ass kicking.
They get whatever they get, and I just want to focus on me now.
Yeah,
you have to energetically detether yourself from people. Anger, hate, resentment, that hurts you, not the other person.
You're right.
I mean, that's pretty much where I am. I've been single for just before COVID started, and I always used to have to be surrounded with people. I've had a lot of girlfriends over the years. I used to party a lot, and I never wanted to be on my own. But the more this has gone on, the more I'm comfortable on my own. We're thinking about the lessons that I've learned over the years. I've had a little bit of heartbreak over the last 6 years and stuff like that, but I've never really been involved with anyone. And I feel, I can look at myself in the mirror and tell myself I love you, right? And feel very comfortable with that. And I've got a lot of friends that can't do that because I've asked them about it.
So true. Listen, this is why I believe that we were meant to live to 1,000, because in reality, you don't fully mature, shed your ego, get more in touch with who you are, go in, feel comfortable in your skin, are able to feel the love for yourself to put out so that you can put out to other people and attract beautiful stuff until you're in your 50s or 60s. Generally, I'm not saying there's some very evolved people who have the secret to all this, but if you came from any kind of little bit, dysfunction or parents or genetic trauma and all that kind of stuff, like I met the love of my life at 60. I couldn't have been capable 20 years ago. I feel regret, not regret. I feel sad. Like I could have had so many more years. If I would have. The point is, then now what do we do?
Right. But haven't you ever I don't know, you did like a really heavy workout, or you were out somewhere hiking. It was super hot. Your body was as hot as it's been. You were dehydrated. One sip of cold water was the best thing you ever had. I used to remember this when I was a wrestler in high school, and we would just be starving ourselves, and we would be on the mat, sweating, doing all this stuff. And I was a captain. We controlled water breaks. It wasn't a regular thing. And then I remember that water break, that first little sip of cold water was the greatest thing ever. So if you find love in your 50s, like me, in your 60s, like you, every day is better.
Yeah.
Because if we lived to be 1,000, we wouldn't appreciate anything. If we didn't have the sands of time trickling in front of us, what would we appreciate? We would kick everything down the road. I think we could do everything in 100 years that we could do in 1,000 years if we put our mind to it.
Okay, but what if the natural progression of maturity happens in that way? Just like we say the frontal lobe is not fully developed till say 26, right? So what if this is part of our adolescence until we're 50 or 60?
I would say that the 1,000 years or 10,000 years.
Think of the things we could do.
I think it's spiritual. I think that the point here is to hone our spirit, our soul in a very. It's like what's it like, American Ninja Warrior, or like what are those shows where you're on the obstacles and they just knocking you over with bats in the face, you're falling in the water, and that's what Earth is. So yeah, our prefrontal cortex may not, but it's not supposed to. It's a bat on our soul. Our emotions, our amygdala is another obstacle course. It's a gauntlet for our soul. This whole structure is a gauntlet that our soul has to go through. So all that ascension and understanding and deep maturity you're talking about, I think that's for the spirit realm.
It might be, but I do believe they screwed.
Plus, I don't know what my knees would be like in 1,000 years old. I mean, you better have some good knee surgery then for a minute.
No, but I'm saying,
Mark, do you think in our development we all had to come here, or do you think some of us volunteered to come here?
I think we volunteered. It would be my guess. I mean, what we're speculating. I think that the creation of humanity is probably got stories that are different from we expect, and it's all part of the matrix. It's all part of the stories that our soul wants to just kind of jump in and choose your own adventure. Do you remember those books? Did you read those as a kid? Choose your own adventure books. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Elisa?
Yes.
I don't know if they had those across the pond.
No,
but the book, they were like sci-fi, and you'd read it, and then at the bottom of certain pages it would say, if you want to go on the spaceship, turn to page 10. If you want to go wherever on the planet. And so every time you read the book, it was a different story.
Yeah.
Right. So
they used to be called fighting fantasy or role-playing books and stuff like that. Gauntlet and Dungeons.
Yeah, because every time you read it, it could have a different plot, a different ending. Yeah. And maybe our souls just came here for the ultimate choose your own adventure.
Yeah. Well, we're all on an adventure.
You make a choice in something, don't you? Get your heart broken or something. You think, I'm not doing that again, and make a different choice the next time.
But you have to, like Mark said, you have to understand, and you have to, I call them relationship hoppers, because, I do coaching, and there's so many people that I coach, and that person, usually the person that comes to me versus the person, their former spouse, or they are so ready to be alone for a while. They're ready for the journey of within. But a lot of times the other person is hopping. Well, they just got out of this relationship. Don't you want to know what went wrong? Don't you want to know what your part was? Don't you want to know how you can get better? But like, I didn't date for 10 years after my divorce because I said, I got some work to do here. Plus I got 2 kids I got to take care of. And a lot of people that even in the chat are saying like they were alone, they did self-work. If you don't do that and you just go from it's like, what do they say? Same movie, different actors. It's the same thing.
I lived it. It's a loop. We're stuck in loops. I don't know if you guys saw Westworld on HBO. Yes. That was one of the greatest shows. When you first watch it,
I saw the original movie. Not to date myself.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that too. So for those who haven't seen it out there, you know, the premise is there's this world. It's in the future where we've got crazy technology, and they basically dig out like a fake Grand Canyon, old Wild West. And they've got like, you know, think 1880s America with gunslingers and the farmer's daughter in her little blue dress. And they create this idyllic old West town called Westworld. But it's a Disney World for the elite, the uber elite people. And the people in Westworld, the characters are robots, but they're the most human robots ever made, right? And so the robots are on loops. The farmer's daughter is going to get up and do these things. The gunslinger is going to do these things, but they have flesh suits. People have sex with them. They murder them, and they're designed to feel pain. So if you kill them, you get to see someone feel pain. So it's the sickness of these elites coming to these robots. And when you start seeing, like in the first couple episodes, the first minute or 2 of every episode is the same. When the farmer's daughter wakes up in bed and she repeats the same loop, and you start to feel bad for these robots. Oh, what if they're more self-aware? And then you realize, no, the whole show, we're the robots. The show is calling us the robots. We're the ones stuck in loops. So when you, like you were saying, when people monkey branch, you know what they say? And I'm sure if you're a coach, you know this. When you see your friends break up and you want to know which one was the problem, which one sat in some pain and which one was in another relationship right away. The person who sat in the pain is going to have a glow up. In 6 months and a year, you're not going to recognize that person. The other one,
did he just
relationship, because that alone time is what makes you grow.
Yes.
Mark, just go back about 10 seconds because you cut out.
Oh, what was the last part you heard?
You were saying, look at the person, the one that works on their pain has the glow up, and then
you want to know who's the problem when there's a breakup, who had the glow up, and who's doing the same thing. The person who had the glow up was not the problem, right? They were being held back by this partner. And so even if they spent weeks or months crying and in pain, when you look at them 6 months later, they're growing. They have a glow up. The other person did what you call in relationships monkey branching. That's when before you end a relationship, you got the next one lined up.
Yes.
So by the time you get dumped, this person, they're blindsided, but this other person's been working on it the whole time. They leave you. The next day they're in bed with someone else. And you're like, what? And that breaks your heart even more. So
Not
if
always.
we go and if you do what, you know, the bad advice to get over someone, get under someone, no, you're going to be just like them, and you're both going to be stuck in loops forever. Okay. But if you sit with that pain and understand that here's your opportunity to not have this literal ball and chain holding you back, and it's for men and women, and you glow up, that's where, so Stu, when you said, you know, I've been alone for a while, my alone time, there was a time when I didn't date for a few years, and I just said, I can't do this right now. I need some perspective. And then when I started dating again, I had some of the same patterns, but I noticed them this time.
Yeah.
Because I took the time to process. And so when I repeated it again 3 more times, took 3 more after probably 15 of them, but instead of 15 more in the 3, because they were all very different types of people, but they all, even though they were slightly different, they triggered the same wounds in me. It made me give people too many chances. It made me shrink myself. It made me question my worth until I realized, why am I putting my worth in someone else at all? And even more so to the particular people that I was putting it in. The awakening for me was realizing, why was I letting this person be a lens on my value? Like, they're not even that great. Yeah. And I'm letting them, you know, I'm looking through their eyes to determine my value. So that alone time is the best. It's when you sit alone, you turn off your TV and you turn off your phone and you stop scrolling, then it's your thoughts come out. And that's where most people run away because their thoughts are so heavy, they're so dark. But if you stop and you don't fight it, what I've learned is that anything you deny, you're creating friction, and friction is connection. When I've had some bad breakups and you're like, all right, I'm going to block all this. I'm going to delete all that. I don't want to see this. Oh, I have a thought about them. I'm remembering a good memory, even though they cheated on me. Oh, now I'm remembering the good times. When I would try to push those out of my mind, that was the worst thing I could do. And it took me decades to figure out that those were the learning moments. You have to sit with that thought. Sit with it, not avoid it. Because if you try to avoid it, you're still connected to it. And you sever it by observing it. Why am I remembering this when all of these other things happen? And once you ask yourself that question, in the pain, like I said, could be weeks, could be months of pain. It's not easy. But when you do that, then you start putting the magnifying glass inward and saying, what was it about me? And that's when you can change and end the loops and not be the Westworld robot waking up every day in the same darn pattern.
Yeah. I'll tell you something funny. When I went through my divorce and separation, it was from 2015 to 2017. I had, 2 daughters at the time, 9 and 11. And their father pulled himself out of the picture completely. So I became a sole parent. But I remember thinking to myself, I really need a mental breakdown, but I don't have the luxury of that right now because I got to get these kids to school. I got to make dinner. I got to figure out how to empty this freaking house that he just left. So about, I would say 3 years later, we're in our new house, me and the girls, all of us had some kind of a breakdown. And it was because we didn't metabolize the loss, the pain, the mourning of a life we had until that point. Now, I was fortunate because even though my kids were teenagers, we kind of helped each other in a weird kind of way to process it. But individually, we had to do our own work. But it doesn't go away, is what I'm trying to say. I put it in a box. And I remember saying that to my girlfriend. She's like, are you all right? I was like, I don't have the luxury of having a total breakdown right now. I got to just keep moving. I'll figure it out. And then, I did. And I also think people have to realize it's a process. You're never at your idyllic point. You're always going to grow if you're going within. You're always going to find something amazing about yourself that you didn't know was there. You're always going to find something that affected you in a negative way that you want to get out and look at and heal. And I just think that the pain, you're so right, that is where the joy comes from, or the new mission, or the reinvention of yourself, or you're set up in a way that you meet somebody. It doesn't have to be romantic either. It could be a best friend. It could be a business partner, like someone who all of a sudden you would never be able to really embrace if you hadn't gone through all that, because you'd have these blocks.
I love it. Remember, you ever read the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism?
Yes.
If you seek it, you will not find it. If you grasp it, you cannot hold it. Yes. Okay. Somebody in the comments just mentioned dating sites. That is the ultimate seeking in futility. I swore those things off almost a decade ago. A couple years ago, I said, let me give it a chance again. I was after 2 years of just focusing on myself. I said, let's try it again. I went back. It was exactly the same thing. And let me tell you something. This is great wisdom that I learned from somebody recently who studies the avoidant types, because that was one that pushed me over the limit. Narcissists got me to wake up to a lot, but the avoidance, because they trick you into thinking that it's really going to happen. Whereas the narcissist, you realize they're just emotionally abusive. You realize what they want to control you, and the concept of love doesn't exist. But the avoidant, the love feels very real at first until you realize they're not capable of it. And so they're the ones that push me over. If you go on a dating site, the number of avoidants out there, because I started doing some avoidant content because I watched some of it. I had an avoidant expert on my show on Friday on the Huddle, Kayla. And you realize how many people out there are responding to this content because there's so many avoidants. A dating app is a playground for avoidance. Everything they want. Swipe, swipe, external validation. No need for real connection. No need for vulnerability. Just get the connection, get the connection, get the connection. If you go on a dating site, God bless your soul, because it's not going to end well. Now, I know everyone's like, oh, I met my person. And yeah, maybe there's 3 people that we know out of the thousands of people you know. Right. Okay. The majority of it is just not you. If you seek it, you will not find it unless it's the kingdom within. That's the only thing. That's the only exception to the rule. And if you seek that, you'll find it. You'll find your strength on your own. You won't need the validation of someone swiping on you, because that is artificial. That is a dopamine hit. And then you're going to become the avoidant yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I realized? This is probably going to sound so dumb. In any relationship I ever had, the one that I'm in now, this is the only way I could explain it. I feel alone when I'm with this person. And I mean that in a good way. I don't feel lonely, but I am who I am, whether like when I'm alone with this person. And I know through my life, I was never felt that way. I was either on, I was trying to please, I was repressing something, suppressing something, nervous, anxious, and I couldn't wait to kind of have the peace of being alone so I could be myself. So my advice is, if you feel the way you feel when you're alone, peace, content, you could feel and say anything, and you could be that way with a person, then you're probably with the right person, because that you're being authentically yourself. And then that becomes global, because then I noticed all my friendships changed. Like it all happened at the same time.
Yeah.
I to be myself with my friends, and I didn't feel uncomfortable, and I felt free. And I was like, how was I friends with this one? What a bitch. Now I'm with these people, like they're loving and giving, but it was the alone time that did it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I said, didn't I, at the Awakening Summit, ultimately, you have to be yourself, yeah? You can go through life learning lessons, getting your heart broken and stuff, but it is essential that you, when these things happen, you take time away to sort of reflect and build and see what's going on. Because say you're going out with a girl and you're treading on eggshells all the time because you're not tough enough, right? And it finishes and you have your heart broken. You're going to say to yourself, I'm not doing that again. I'm tough. And you might go into the next relationship, if you go into it too soon, with the girl that would have been exactly right for you in the previous time. Do you know what I mean? But you go into it with a different attitude, pretending to be someone that you're not, right? And it goes on like that. There's too many people playing games and social media and pretending to be something they're not.
I mean, you guys are
not loving themselves. That's what it is.
Listen, everyone puts on a facade to try to be what you think this person wants you to be. And when you do that, if you win them over, you have to pretend to be that person forever.
Yes, exactly.
The only way to truly have expression of yourself, which is if you want to have love and start with self-love and then real love for another, you have to have authenticity. Authenticity is a higher vibration. So if you're not authentic, you're going to have the wrong friends. You're going to have the wrong partner, and you're going to be in a loop forever, and you're not going to get what you came here with your soul. And what you were saying, Elisa, about sort of like feeling alone with the person, it's a huge one. So I think everyone in this movement pretty much has a high degree of empathy. I think that's why we're here. I think that we care about other people more than our own name, our own reputation. We stuck our necks out because we have a great degree of empathy. But empathy is a double-edged sword. And I've only learned this about myself recently, and it's one of the most profound aha moments, is that our empathy, when it becomes our identity, it's actually an excuse for bad behavior. Mm-hmm. Because what you do is you do two things. You self-abandon and you shrink. And then you call it empathy. Well, this person had a lot of trauma as a child, and I need to understand that. And so you are abandoning your boundaries. Your boundaries are part of your authentic self. Look, there's different people out there. I no longer would ever date a girl whose social media is full of selfies. That's it. And when there's cleavage all over it, I don't care if you want to call me prude or controlling. These women manipulate you, and they manipulate your empathy to say, oh, you're controlling. I say, no, I don't want the woman that's telling me she loves me going to bars without me, dressed in a way that is purposely attracting sexual energy from men. Why would you do that unless you need that validation? And I used to have my empathy tell me, no, she just lost like 80 pounds. She's proud of herself. She was traumatized as a child where appearance mattered. No, that is not empathy. That is being stupid. That is shrinking yourself and abandoning yourself, because the only thing that matters in a healthy relationship is behavior. So if their authentic self is dressing that way, then their authentic self requires strangers' validation nonstop, and yours will never be enough. They will always have external sources. And if you're okay with that, you want an open relationship, do a show about that. Good for you. Good luck with that. But if you want to have a sacred bond where intimacy does not leak, you can't be with that person. And using your empathy, like I did for decades, to say, well, no, they had a lot of trauma. They had a lot of problems. They just want to feel good. Empathy is a double-edged sword. It's great that we're all here, but we have to have boundaries, and we can never self-abandon.
Well
I
said.
think very similar to you, Mark. Yeah. Mark, I think I heard you say on a show previously, when's your birthday? Is it March the 6th?
March the 4th.
On March the 8th. So we're very close.
All right. I'm a Pisces sun, Pisces moon, and Libra rising. So the people who study that, the reason I'm on air and stuff is the Libra rising, and the reason I have all these emotional breakthroughs is all that water in me, all the two Pisces, sun and moon. It's a lot. People are like, that's a lot of water. That's what they'll say to me. That's a lot of water. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Oh,
brilliant.
wow.
Well,
This was really such a nice discussion.
This is really great. Unexpected and very welcome.
Yeah, it was great. Well, we'll just talk about Cathy in a minute. I was just going to say, I had just written down here. Obviously, Cathy O'Brien, she's been through some horrific stuff, and we could never really equate to that being us. But we have been down these rabbit holes, digging through all these things ourselves to get the information out to other people. And, this fear vibration. And you were talking about your comedy earlier and how it's very important. And people don't really understand the importance of memes and stuff over this period, and how they and the laughter of that has kept us all going through these times of, searching our soul and going down these rabbit holes and digging all this stuff out. And, it's quite harrowing experience, isn't it? Learning all these things.
Listen, it's another double-edged sword, right? Is the comedy, right? I loved when I started comedy, it was 26 years ago. And then I did it for about 5-6 years. And then I took 19 years off. And the reason I took the time off is because 9/11 happened and I started using cocaine, and I was not like a drug person, and I was depressed. I was suicidal. I was PTSD'd. I mean, I lost a good friend. I lived in New York City. My friend died in the towers, and he had a BlackBerry. And so he gave us an update every 5 minutes. And it was, you're watching guys. Hey, just letting you know, I'm at the Windows on the World. Just letting you know, I was here for a breakfast meeting. And then it turned into him describing his slow, horrific death. And that messed everyone up. So comedians tend to be very self-deprecating, depressed people. I wasn't. But after 9/11, when I started doing cocaine, I became a different person. And so I just was like, I gotta fix my life. And it's not going to happen if I'm hanging around with people who do this stuff all the time. So I got out of comedy, and I focused many years on sort of regaining self, which was a whole other process after that. But what I loved at the beginning was I could talk about politics, and I wasn't even fully formed to the conservative I am now. I just knew, because I wasn't really into politics, because I knew it was all fake. I knew voting was fake even then in my 20s, because there was no way the elections were always 49.5% to 51.5%. I knew that meant one side was stuffing until they won, and then they stopped. It's the only way. There's no country, no city, no state is 50-50 split. Get out of here. So I never did politics, but I still had views, political views, and I could use my comedy to get this New York audience that was so skewed one way to laugh at jokes. We had the Iraq war back then, right after 9/11, and I had jokes about that. Some of them got stolen, and Jon Stewart used them on The Daily Show. His writers gave them to him. One of his writers came to a show I booked, and he goes, "That's great material. Make sure you do it every day, or people will steal it from you, and nobody will know it's you because you're young and you're starting." I said, "Thanks for the advice." And then he stole the joke and gave it to Jon Stewart, who used it on The Daily Show. Wow. And it made the cover of Variety magazine too, by the way. And I still do a version of that joke to this day after my 19-year hiatus. But I loved that you could use comedy to educate people if you did it right. But then in those intervening years, I just got sickened by comedy because they were using comedy. They knew that they would get more airtime. They knew they could get on The Daily Show. They knew they could get on Comedy Central and HBO if they did this liberal nonsense. So they contributed to this sort of fall, which is why I love seeing all of these comedians now, some who were not political, like Jeff Dye, coming out and being all edgy because they're the forefront of it. So there's this sort of return to using comedy for good now. But obviously the majority, if I do a comedy show, you got to read the audience or you're going to have half the audience yell at you the minute they realize you're a Trump supporter. I was doing a show and had all these great jokes for a whole audience. And then I got to a joke. I didn't do anything about Trump yet. And I did a joke about RFK Jr. This whole table just started booing at that point, just for the mention of his name. So that's that's what we're up against right now. Yeah.
What do you think of Jim Brewer?
Oh, he's great.
He's great, right? I call it common sense comedy. You know what I'm saying? Because he's very physical too, so that of course makes the laughter that much heartier. But his routine that he did about the jab, I thought was one of the most creative, funniest, with all the sounds and, trust the science that he's doing as a bird. But you're right. It really does. It does make you look at things in a way, and to use that's a force, that you have, that I think is using that for good, the way you're doing.
Yeah. And we need so much more of that. It's funny because I love that I got back into comedy. I love having that ability, but I was talking to someone about this the other night. I do not see myself ever going back into the circuit just because of the energy of so many people, the self-deprecation. That is, you are literally denying your connection to the divine, because if the kingdom is within and you're self-deprecating, you are never going to have that connection to source and God that you need. But I lost my point. It was something about Jim Brewer.
His routines,
I forgot.
It's like I always think of him as Goat Boy, like that's how I associated him, which was really funny. But he has a really good way, and he is very unapologetic about his, and yet when you watch his there's a soulfulness, I feel, and a spiritualness about him that really comes through, like a love of humanity in his acts. So I'm going to go out on a limb here live, and I'm going to ask, you remember? Go ahead.
Well, it was kind of tangential, and I don't know what time is, so we don't have to dive deep into it, but it's you mentioned his jokes about the jab, and this is one of the things that is driving me crazy right now, and it's controversial. I'd be surprised if anyone watching right now gets triggered by this, but the masses, even my conservative friends, will get triggered by this. We learned a hard lesson. I have friends and family who literally dropped dead after their vaccines. Okay. It's not anecdotal anymore, right? We know that people drop dead from these things. And here we are just a few years later, and everyone is injecting peptides, Ozempic, NAD+.
Thank you.
And I'm like, and they're like, oh, well, I get mine from a, what do they call that? A something pharmacist, the ones who mix it up. So I'm not getting it from Big Pharma. I'm like, but Big Pharma invented these. Just because you've got somebody who's got a home lab, that's like getting Molly from the kid in Brooklyn who makes it at home and saying it's better. These things are not tested, and they're cheat codes, and Big Pharma controls them. That's why they're putting down all of these pharmacies that are making it. And everyone defends this stuff now. People I know who were like, I would never get the vaccine. They're like, you're not taking testosterone and NAD and tetrapeptide, whatever. Like, what? Did you learn? Nothing. So when we talk about 4 to 6%, we are still way above 4 to 6% loss right now. Way above. So many people. I'd never get a vaccine, but I'm putting retatrutide and semaglutide in my body every day, and they're giving themselves shots. Dude, just go on a diet, eat proper, and get rid of seed oils and go to the gym. That's it. That's it. Sleep well. Go to the gym. Move your body. But no, I want to do it now. And now I go to the gym, and all these older guys, I remember when I was at the gym, when I was a little younger, you'd see these older guys, and they were ripped. And I was like, that's discipline. I want to be that guy when I'm older. But now I know the signs, right? I can see the signs because the face changes from testosterone. Jaws change, faces change. You can tell when a man's on testosterone. And I'm like, I don't respect it because you did the cheat code. It's the guys who are natural and are putting in the time for their diet and their exercise. I'm like, that's discipline. Giving yourself a shot and in 6 months looking like Lou Ferrigno, that's not an achievement. And there's going to be a long-term price to pay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if that's unpopular. People are clinging to these things. It's like the new religion. And it's absolutely driving me crazy.
Yeah.
It's really obnoxious. I see women that maybe, in my estimation, maybe 10 pounds, 15 pounds, you know what I mean? Like they're in their 40s, 50s. Okay, your body changes a little bit, your activity lessens, 10, 15 pounds. Oh no, I'm taking it. It's just so important to me to look good. I don't even know where to go with that conversation. I don't even know where to go. It is so ridiculous. Now I get like more nasty than you. I'm like, stop eating and move. Like, that's it. Change what you're eating. Are you eating the right things, or do you want to stuff your face with crap? Because you obviously don't care what you're pumping into your body. So I'm going to guess you're probably not very discerning about the food you're eating either. Because if you were, you'd probably look better naturally.
It's one of those, it's almost like that cult thing where like during COVID, where they didn't need to enforce social norms. They got their minions were so brainwashed that your friends wouldn't invite you over. I mean, I was taken off of every guest list in the entertainment industry in Vegas because that's where I've worked for 10 years, entertainment guy. After it was found out that I didn't get vaccinated, you can't come over to the party. Nobody's going to want to be around unvaccinated people. It's become a religion. And the same thing is happening with these peptides and testosterone. They call it TRT, testosterone replacement. It's test. It is the steroid that guys were buying illegally in the gym when I was a kid. And now they're just calling it TRT. It's not some new thing. It is synthetic testosterone, which means, I'll just, pardon my French, it means your balls shrink because they don't need to work anymore because your body is testicles shrink. And, if you use it long enough, they ain't coming back. I'm sorry. If you use it long enough, your body is going to say, we don't need to make this testosterone anymore. You're getting it externally. I got men 10, 15 years younger than me getting on me. What you just don't want to live the best life you have? You don't want to have the best performance? Then fine. Be natural. Like, they're literally trying to guilt me into taking that. Well, have you had your testosterone measured? Because maybe it's low for your age. First of all, I'm going to go to a doctor. They're going to measure it. And then they're going to tell me whatever it is that it's low for my age. And then they're going to try to prescribe me this stuff. Because when you get on it, you're on it for life. Because the dose that they give you now is lower than the bodybuilder dose, which is actually more damaging long term because then your body depends on it. So you go on it for a year and now you can never go off. So here's what I tell them. I said, I'm going to do the behaviors and eat the foods that create testosterone. I don't need to know what the level is. I'm going to eat my steaks. I'm going to lift heavy things, and I'm going to do the things that will keep my body young naturally. And now when I'm 70 or 80, if all of a sudden my testosterone jumps off a cliff, sure, I want to get another 10 years. Maybe I'll look at it then, but I'm not doing that when I still have God's gift running through my body. It doesn't make sense to me. Everybody wants to cheat to get ahead. How do you feel good about it if you didn't earn it?
Yeah, exactly. Did you say that was called TST?
TRT is what they call it.
Oh, well, I was going to say it stood for time shrinking testicles, but you'll have to make something else.
It's called testes.
It's like I'm 55. I'm just a couple of years on you, Mark. But I've got a load of mates now. They're all buying electric mountain bikes, right? And I'm saying, look, all the time, my legs. all the time my legs still work, I'm going to use my legs to go cycling. Do you know what I mean?
Isn't that the whole point of mountain
Really
biking?
cheating
Is
doing
like
that.
the adventure? Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That doesn't make sense to me.
No.
You know, and speaking of that, again, I come back to the parents. I had this friend whose son was like kind of short. He was like 8th grade, maybe. Okay, the rest of the men in the family weren't giants, but they were like normal height. You know what I mean? 5'8", 5'9". You know, it wasn't like they were 5 feet.
Yeah, I
And
know.
she-
Normal height over here.
No, I'm saying like, okay. And she starts giving the kid growth hormones.
What?
The stupidity that exists out there is, to me, just mind-boggling. Just mind-boggling.
It's the rationalization. It is so cultish. If you watch the people who are pushing this stuff, every one of them, by the way, also sells it and they get a 20% commission. They don't tell you that. But the justifications, they're like, no, but this drug, women who have tried to have babies for 10 years and were infertile, used it and were able to have a baby. I'm like, great. Then let those women use it to have a baby. Why are you injecting it in yourself every day or every week? I don't know what the cycles are.
Right.
But like, that's not an argument for a normal person. Oh, obese people lost 200 pounds. Great. Let them use it. Their metabolism has been so damaged that normal processes might be take so many years to never do it. So give them a jump start and then get off it. It's not for normal people to have exceptional physiques. It's for someone who's infertile. It's for someone who's got like a diabetic level of insulin resistance and they just, nothing is helping them. Get them over the hump and get rid of that poison.
Right. Yeah, it's
really.
Well, what do I know?
An easy fix, didn't they? People are just after an easy fix. They don't want to put the effort in because they're all lazy.
Literally, we came here to suffer, right? You know, like we came here for the human experience, which is joy, but it's also suffering. We didn't just come here to suffer. That's where I disagree with the church to some degree. You know, everyone's talking about Paul and versus Jesus now, but we won't get into that. That'll definitely offend people. But I believe Jesus wanted us to find the kingdom within us, not to live in eternal, oh, well, I'm a sinner. Everyone tells me, you think you're a good person? And like, you're not. You're a sinner. I'm like, live the way you want, dude. If that's what you if that's the mindset, a voice in your head telling you you're not good enough is what you think your soul came here for, have at it.
It's so true. You know, I was going to just say, I have a few people that I know, right? I've always been in very good shape. Maybe my weight went up 5-10 pounds, you know, whatever. And then I'll get made fun of because I'm not eating this or I'm not eating that. And then it's usually by someone who's like 30 or 40 pounds overweight.
It's always the same.
And saying,
you will only ever get
in the ass. Okay, sorry, I don't eat that. You know, I'm going to pick around, or I never make my eating habits imposed on other people, right? I could go to a steakhouse because I'm a vegetarian and I'll find something. I'm not going to make you change where we're going to go because I'll figure it out. But why is it bothering you if you order a salad and I'm not really eating cheese that much and it has mozzarella in it and I don't want to eat the mozzarella? How does that affect you?
You don't eat mozzarella?
No.
Wait, what? You live in New York and you don't eat mozzarella?
I'll have a bite every once in a while. I don't feel
mozzarella's vegetarian, basically. Cows eat grass.
I just don't like, as I've gotten older, I don't like the way I feel with the dairy. I get a lot of congestion, whatever. I'll have some grated cheese. I'll have, you know,
raw milk. The dairy, you're not allergic to the dairy. You're allergic
to. No, I didn't say I was allergic, but
in the parasite meds
the raw
and the
milk.
vaccines they put in the cows. That's what you're allergic to.
You're right. But nonetheless, all I'm trying to say is you're making fun of me. And then you say, oh, wow, you're so thin.
Right. You're like, maybe you could learn something from me.
No.
Yeah.
Or just, why does it bother you that I'm not eating that? Like, I'm not stopping you from eating it. Why? Because I push
Here I was talking about steak before. I didn't know you were a vegetarian.
No, but I don't have a judgment about that because everybody has to go with what if I wake up tomorrow and I have a really big urge or something in my body, a craving is telling me I need to eat something, I'm going to eat it.
Right.
So you have to follow, and people eat meat. I don't have a problem with what anybody eats. I have a problem with factory farming, and I have a problem with how they slaughter the animals, but I don't have a problem with someone who wants to eat well. You'll find the resources to where it's healthy and it's raised with some kind of integrity, etc.
Yeah.
But people and how they eat and what they eat, I mean, except for, you know, the Satanists, right? That I have a problem with. But other than that, food is supposed to be, in my opinion, supposed to be enjoyed. I don't know.
I mean, we're living through probably the most incredible turn in food and pharma in this country right now. People aren't even seeing it, right? They're not even seeing what's really going on with this MAHA movement, right? I forget what state. Utah just passed a MAHA bill. It's crazy the things that are happening. Like I get my eggs from a farm, and I get my meat shipped from places where it's grass-fed, grass-finished, and no shots, none. And they're sustainable. I have this one farm. It's grass-fed and then finished on wild desert oat. It is a grain that grows in Arizona wild. The whole farm is completely rejuvenated, whatever they call that. The farm sustains itself. There's nothing they have to spray on the crops. The grass grows, the wild desert oat grows. The wild desert oat gives it a nice little bit more fat at the end, but it's not eating the wheat that has been covered with glyphosate. It's not getting injected with these things. The chickens, everyone's like, they wanted us to believe steak and eggs were bad for you because they're the two healthiest food. And they're the two, well, I'm sorry, you know, there's other healthy food, I mean, at least, but they're the food that make men masculine. Okay, if you want a man to be full of testosterone, he's got to eat eggs and meat all the time. So what do? They poison the eggs and the meat. They have these horrible factory farms that you're talking about. The chickens, the cows are injected with horrible stuff. And then you eat the meat, and then you get sick, and then say, "Oh, it was the meat and eggs that got you sick." Meanwhile, get it from a local farm.
Right.
They made it impossible to. I have to, for my raw milk and eggs in Vegas. It's like buying drugs. I have to meet people in a parking lot because you go to California and you can buy this stuff, which is weird. In Vegas, you can't. In Nevada, you can't. I got to go and get my raw milk from the parking lot in the back of a trunk.
And not to mention, they're adrenalizing all of our meat. I mean, the way the factory farms are, and the way they have the terror, and it's very satanic. It's very sick. So you're absolutely right. It's where, you know, now for me, it's just a personal reason. I mentally can't get past, since I was a young kid, I never liked the taste of meat. Chicken I did. And I just have this thing with animals. However, like I said, if for some reason my body tells me that I need something, I'm going to follow that because it, you know, but I don't judge other people because you're right. They vilified the egg. Yeah.
Which is literally the superfood that God put here for us. It's so readily available. You get a couple chickens, you have eggs for your whole family and your neighbors. Infinite supply. Just a couple chickens.
I mean, that's what we're talking about, adrenalized meat and stuff. That's why there's just been this massive worldwide global push for like halal and kosher slaughter, right? Is because that's exactly what it does. You know, and it's shocking. If you watch any of those films, you know, from Farm to Fridge or anything like that, you're going to cry your eyes out, you know. And I'll just say one more thing as well, right? It's a golden rule, really. Whatever you're doing to better your life, you only normally get criticized by people who are doing less than you.
Right. They say never accept criticism from someone who's doing less than you, right?
Exactly that.
And that's where it always comes from.
Definitely. Now, Elisa, you were going to ask something. I think
I was going to put Mark on the spot. So anyway, we're having our Awakening Summit in Sedona in October. We're waiting for confirmation on the exact weekend, but we're pretty sure it's going to be, I'll just say it to everyone, but remember, we're waiting for confirmation. It looks like it's going to be this October 16th to the 18th, that weekend. So we would love to have you. If you would like to come, we would love to have you be part of the lineup. We have a very impressive group, many of which were at the Mary Crowley event and then others. And it's a cross section of, you know, podcasters, spiritual, geopolitical, military. Like we brought a lot of different aspects of the movement together.
You're asking me to be a speaker?
Yes.
Oh my God, I would love to. I'm not going to 100% confirm now because entirety of October, I have this weird travel plan, but it might be able to work out for a couple of days.
Okay, well, we'll talk. I just wanted to put it out there.
I would love to. I would love to if we can make that work. And thank you.
Yeah, and we're excited about the location. Like Stu came for the first time to the United States for our event that we had in April here on Long Island. So he got to see a little bit of New York, not that much, but a little bit of Long Island. And so now I'm excited, not only because it's just a whole different part of the country with a lot of spirit, the vortices and all that, but like. So now Stu and I are going to be the co-MCs. So now he's going to get to see a whole other totally different aspect of what the United States is about.
Yeah.
Oh, that's first of all, Sedona is a magical place. You know, I don't know if I buy exactly what they say about the portals and anything, because, you know, there's definitely magnetic fields under Earth that have impact on us. But I got to tell you, Sedona is one of the greatest places to visit. It is just, it's just beautiful and it's magical. Yeah. And they've got that church, the Chapel in the Hill or whatever it's called. There's like this big rock wall and there's little tiny church. Maybe it seats 20, 30 people. It's carved into it. So you walk in and the big glass with the cross in it is looking out into the mountains. And then when you look up in the mountains behind it, there's like an eagle head that's like naturally occurring, coming out. Like it's, and the healing waters, you walk through those and you do the pink Jeep tour and you go up into all those red rocks. And it's just, I love it out there.
Yeah. I think it's going to have a different feel, you know, to everything.
Yeah.
All right, great. We'll send you more info on that.
Sweet. Okay. Well, look, just to finish then, because Cathy's not here, I know you sent me we've got a couple of links here where we can donate to her, but I've just got Cathy's, the Cathy O'Brien story, Mind Control, Human Trafficking and Healing the Nation. I've just got the trailer here. I thought we might as well play that at the end. And then I can just pop a few links up.
Sure.
It was so hard to come running out of a hell that nobody believed existed. My name is Cathy O'Brien, and I'm a survivor of MK Ultra mind control. The MK Ultra program was to ultimately control the minds of the population for implementing what Adolf Hitler first termed the New World Order. When girls reached age 30, they were murdered or they were sacrificed. I was going to be killed as well. I was to go out in a blaze of glory and be burned alive. I'm so fortunate that an intelligence insider who saw the kind of corruption that was going on in the highest levels of government decided to take action and rescued me and saved my life so that we could begin to expose what was being done.
And that is a really good film. I watched it again the other day to catch up again. If you want to follow Cathy, she's on Real Cathy O'Brien on Twitter. And this is Cathy's website, Trance. Is that a hyphen? I never know what it's called.
Trance, TRANCE dash formation. Trance formation.
Called it a dash. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And then there's some links here. Donate to Cathy. So obviously it's on this page here, but you can donate there. And obviously we hope to get Cathy on sometime soon in her absence today. And we hope she's okay. But that's been great today.
Can I do a quick little plug for Cathy since you played that? Of course you can. So the trailer you just showed, her movie is incredible. Anyone out there, if you haven't seen it, you have to. So Cathy's, it's for sale on the website. I will tell you this. Cathy gave me permission to do a watch party. So if you go on my Parallel 8 Media and scroll back to the last time you see Cathy's face on there, you can watch it there for free. And she gave me permission to do that. But I would ask, because They just got hit and they have serious storm damage. They have no power right now, and that's why she couldn't be with us today. She is looking for donations. So I would say go watch that movie if you want to watch it on my channel for free. But please, even if you only have $5 or whatever you can do, please consider giving a donation. She is not a rich woman. She has spent almost 40 years out there getting the message out, helping survivors heal. And she really does need the support of the community. She's changed my life. So I would ask, go watch that movie and donate whatever you can to her at trans-formation.com, and then click on the donate link in the upper right there. It would mean a lot to me, and it would mean a lot to her and her daughter, because they're dealing with it right now.
Yeah. Well, when you speak to her, give her our love. Yeah.
Yes.
On the show, and I hope she's all right. And we'd love to have her on soon.
Absolutely. Well, can I put you guys on the spot now?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Is there any chance that I could have the video for today? I would love to replay this on my channel.
I will download it straight after, and I will
just Dropbox or Google Drive. Or something?
Yeah.
This was so much fun today, you guys. I had such a blast. I just want to share it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. You could have even gone live on your channel if we talked about it earlier. But yeah, that's fine. No, as soon as I've got it, Mark, I'll get it. I've got your WhatsApp anyway, so we'll get your email details or whatever, and I'll fire it straight across.
Appreciate it, you guys. This was a blast.
Yeah. Cool. And just again, give the plug for your channel, because we want everybody to go there. And
yeah, if you're not following me, guys, give me a follow. It's Parallel 8 Media on Rumble. I'm now Mark Messina, at Mark Messina on X. It says Parallel 8 Media. My handle is at Mark Messina. I just changed it to my name. On Instagram, I'm at Mark Messina. On TikTok, I'm at markmessina.8track. Trying to get things a little consolidated here, because with 40K view and Parallel 8, it's a little all over the place. So you can find me at Mark Messina in most places. And if you don't know how to get to Parallel 8 Media on Rumble by typing it in, you can also look there on below my name. 40kview.com has all my links as well. This past Friday, I did a great relationship show, which anyone if that stuff resonated with you, I would go back and watch it. It's called Mixed Signals, The Love Show with Mark and Kayla. It was on the Friday Night Huddle this past Friday. Last night, I did an incredible show with retired Border Patrol Chief Chris Clem on the Las Vegas shooting. I did about 2,000 hours of research on that back starting in 2017 for this next several years. That was actually how I found Q, because I've been digging for decades, and I was on 4chan researching the information that was out before the shooting. That's when there's foreknowledge, we know it was a plan. So I was all over 4chan on the Vegas shooting when I found Q, but I've spent a lot of time on the Vegas shooting, and I know there's a lot of people who've done great work on it. I've got some stuff people haven't seen yet. And so to get the party started last night, Chris Clem and I did an hour in the studio, and then we did an hour walking around the Mandalay, going up to where the perch was, where the shooting, getting the views. So if you want to know anything about that massive story, I would start there. Coming up this Friday on the Huddle, I have got Lance Shuttler coming on. We're going to do a little health talk, and then we're going to continue down the Vegas shooting. I have so much content that I need to get out. I'm going to be doing it a few times a week for probably the next couple months. So part 2 of Vegas shooting will be Lance. A few other people will be joining us on Friday's Huddle. And then I think on 40K View next Sunday, I'm going to play this, because this was great. And so yeah, give me a follow at Mark Messina on X, Parallel 8 Media on Rumble.
Sweet, will do. And Lance Shuttler is excellent. We spoke to him a few weeks back, and we had a great time. And I just want to say as well, obviously, because now we've added on every Respect show down the bottom, we've added Mark's links, so you can get the downloads available. You can donate to ARC, Shared Hope International, More to Live in, America's Future. 100% of all proceeds go to saving the children, so they will always be there on our Monday shows. And I just want to say thank you to Mark as well, because me and Elisa did a little video like that, and he's edited us into his outro. So that's absolutely wonderful going forward. That we love doing this show.
I love Mark. He's so great, and he's doing such good work.
Yeah, he is. Brilliant. Okay, everyone.
This was great, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone in the chat. You're amazing. I'm going to go back and read that all now, and then I'll send you this MP4 as soon as it's done, Mark. All right.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Where we go, when we go all.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Children are the center of our world, and we do our best to show them that we care. But evil is lurking everywhere to steal their youth, kill their souls, show them things that they should never know. We live in the craziest of times, you never know what's in another's mind. We keep them safe, protect from bad, but they just choose to make them sad and keep their evil rituals alive. Who saves the children? We do, we do. Who keeps them safe and warm and so secure? We do, we do. Who saves the children? We do, we do. And we'll fight to death to keep it safe for you. We'll fight for what's right with all of our might, and we won't leave one single child behind. They've been here since the dawn of time, and their actions take a twisted mind. But we won't stand no more. We'll track them down for sure and make sure that they are gone forevermore. Why can't you see the crimes committed on our kids by the powers that be? How long do we wait? How many must die? How many loving parents need to cry? Who saves the children?